Dear ferry friends, welcome to our first webinar of this year and already the fifth in the last 7 months. We are delighted that you are joining us with so many friends. This interesting webinar has as topic the restart of the passenger ferry services. As you all well know, we as Ferry Shipping Summit and News have a special focus on ports as well. Ferries can't sail without ports. My name is Frans Bout. I'm the Managing Director of Ferry Shipping Summit, and I will be your host today. We are honored to have 4 very knowledgeable persons in the ferry industry in this panel. Let me introduce them. First of all, we have Pino Spadafora, Global Commercial Director, Marine of RENA and sponsor. Thank you, Pino, to make this webinar possible. Then we have Casper Moos, Vice President at Dfts and Head of the Group Passengers. Then we have Matteo de la Valle, Passenger Sales and Marketing Staff Director at GNV. And last but not least, Vasilis Katsaris, Commercial Director of the Attica Group. We are glad to have you all. As moderators, we have today Bo Lennart Torbjörnsen, President of Ferry Shipping Summit and News. Bo, you have to unmute to introduce yourself, otherwise it's not going to work.
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Bo Lennart. I'm gonna lead the panel debate, and very welcome on board, all of you.
And then we have Mike Luigi, our Chief Editor of Ferry Shipping News.
Very good afternoon. My name is Mike. I'm indeed the Chief Editor of Ferry Shipping News. I'm very happy to see all these familiar names, unfortunately not the faces, but I see friends from the ferry and from the cruise industry even, so that's very good. I will do a poll, an interactive poll with you. So the audience, I will ask you to answer 5 questions a bit later on after the sponsor. And yeah, at the end of the webinar, we will have the results of the sponsor. So back to you, Frans.
Okay, Mike, thank you. As you have seen in the beginning already, we have a very interesting program, and we will record this webinar and make it available on our website, so you can see it again at a later moment as you wish to do so. And it's not only on the website, but it will be on YouTube as well. I will now hand over the microphone to Mike to announce the start of this webinar. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you for this digital floor. I think we have to say a big thank you to RENA and to Pino Spadafora for the sponsorship. And well, I would love to give him now the opportunity to give his presentation. Pino, the floor is now yours.
Pino, I'll start your presentation first with your movie, which is on the next page.
Thank you, Frans.
The movie is not, oh yeah, okay.
Okay, Franz, probably I will start. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thanks a lot to Ferry Shipping Summit for the event, for the invitation, first of all. I would like to add only few topics on the video, which have been, despite the sound was missing, but which has been prepared by our communication department, because behind the videos there are always resources and personnel which are ready to support our industry, especially in a situation like we are living at the moment. These are some of the topics that will be touched during this presentation. Next, please. Of course, the new year will be even more challenging. 2021 will require us to be even more robust and more resilient than 2020. Next, please. In this slide, you see the number of passengers which have been aboard ferry ships in 2019, 2020, and at the beginning of 21. Situation looks not very bad in the summertime, but of course, operators in reality, they are claiming that passengers today are mainly confined to key position workers and to drivers which are attached to cargo transport. Next, please. There is one point that unfortunately we have to highlight, is the proliferation of requirements, guidelines, circulars, which have been prepared and dictated at local, national, and international level. Next, please. And in a situation like this, recognized organization, classification society as ARENA, we have the duty to support the clients, the ship owners, operators, in trying to validate their own procedures and measures on board and onshore against these international requirements. Next, please. Focusing on all the areas which can be affected by an eventual pandemic. Next, please. But we have done something more. We have created our own safety management certification system, which we call the Biosafety Trust certification, which is covering the best practice of an organization which is managing personnel, people, and of course assets. This is in these slides you see the list of the audit program that you need to do to achieve this certification. Next, please. So we have seen basically the validation of the procedures and the requirements. We have seen the organization, and now we focus on the asset. This is why we have also created an additional class notation that we call BioSafe ship, which is applicable to ship. Next, please. Any kind of vessel, new buildings or existing ship, cargo ship, and passenger ship. Next, please. The idea basically is to develop a health management plan to be used in a routine or emergency situation, deploy operative procedures, and of course also focusing on resources, training them on board and onshore, appointing, depending on the magnitude of the trading, of course, a ship health officer. Next, please. You need to identify the 10 macro areas arrangement on board of the ship, and for each of them, depending on the type of ship and if it's new or an existing ship, you have to cover a certain number to achieve an index which will give you this additional class notation. Additional class notation, of course, when you have a ARENA class vessel, but we can also issue a statement of compliance to these rules in case the ship is not under ARENA class or is not even under class. Next, please. The idea, of course, is to have an initial survey, and together with the surveys, we are doing a periodical survey in conjunction with the other periodical survey which are connected to the existing set of certificates which a vessel has. So this is not creating any burden to operators or to managers. It's important to say that this additional class notation has a goal-based, so it's something that you can tailor according to your actual situation. So basically, this was my presentation, and of course, the presentation is available in later on, and eventually also for any kind of question I will be available. Thank you so much.
Mike.
Yes, here I am. Thank you, Pino, for this presentation. That was quite impressive, the speed you had to go through. It was very interesting, but I would like to repeat to our audience that everything will be available online on the YouTube channel, that the PowerPoint presentations can be consulted. So when you have more time to look at it in depth, it will be possible. So let's now start to some little interactive part. As in the previous webinars, we have organized a little poll, a poll with 5 questions. So now Franz is going to prepare this poll, to launch this poll. Here it is. So dear audience, I would like you to ask to answer the 5 questions. It's very easy. It's only 3 possibilities. And at the end of this webinar, we will have a look at the results of your answers. So I will give you some time. We'll quickly read the questions. Should the ferry sector learn from the cruise industry? Is a vaccination passport part of the solution? Will people rather take their car than the plane? Do we see the return of Chinese passengers, like in the Baltic? It's a very important market. And will some changes be permanent, like buffet foods in the restaurant? So I see the answers coming in at a quick pace. Everybody's very rapid today. That's excellent. They are still coming in. Wonderful. Yeah, I think we can give it a couple of more seconds. Yeah, like already 80% voted, which is really good. And as soon as we finish this, I will hand over the microphone to Bo Leonard. But before that, I would like to say that thank you for all the questions that have been sent before. And that was quite a record compared to the previous webinars. So we are very grateful for all these questions. But because of that and because of time limits, we will have difficulties to do Q&A live right now. So we will have all the questions that have been sent beforehand. Franz, I think you can end the poll, and I will now hand over the microphone to Bo Leonard in Sweden. Bo Leonard, it's to you now.
Thank you, Mike, for the mic. Yes, now we have come to the panel, and we have heard the presentation of Pino, very interesting. And we have also asked the rest of the panel to give their view on the most important factors, internal and external, to be able to restart the passenger ferry traffic. So we'll start asking Casper, and what is your view on how to restart the passenger ferry traffic? What are the important factors? Please.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you so much, Bo Leonard and Franz, for your kind invitation. And also thank you so much for the challenge. If you go to the next slide, please. The question, how to restart the passenger ferry traffic, and giving me 5 minutes to boil all that down to one page and then give a heads up from Dfts. It is a challenge because we have been in this crisis mode for more than a year now, and I could actually entertain for many hours with answers to this question. But first of all, a short introduction to Dfts to those of you who do not know us. We are a logistic and ferry operator across Europe and also in Turkey. And of course, passengers, we operate passengers between UK and the continent, between Denmark and Norway, and also a number of routes in the Baltics. So the question, how to restart? I think first of all, it all starts with the customers. That we need to make sure that when we can start again, and of course already now we are in operation with small numbers, it is all about making sure that we have a safe travel. A safe travel in our minds is not a no-risk travel. It is a safe travel where we implement a number of measures, a number of different protocols to secure that we can reduce the risk of the spread of a pandemic going forward. So we need, as an industry, to be prepared, and we need to coordinate across the different operators to secure that we develop and implement a protocol that can keep our safety, the safety high for our passengers and staff. Secondly, I have marked this with capital red letters. We must restart at a lower cost base. When we started up again in summer last year, we unfortunately had to say goodbye to a number of Dfts employees. Actually, we reduced our overall staff with 40% staff related to passenger activities. So when we started up, we had to say goodbye. It was a tough decision, but it is simply necessary to start up operating in that we reduce our cost, because if we don't reduce our cost, obviously we will not be able to deliver a profitable business. On top of that, it is also a matter of value selling. We tried in the early days in June when we started up to see if we can stimulate demand with the classical supply demand. Let's reduce our prices to see if passengers, they jump on board. That proved to be not the case. We believe that the future will ask us to deliver a value selling, meaning transportation products, and we cannot go out and let's say grow traffic by dumping prices. It is a different product that potentially we have to offer post the crisis. And last but not least, we fundamentally believe that what we have learned during the crisis, that we needed to react extremely fast to the pandemic. None of us expected it. Of course, we had a few months pre-warning from China. But going forward, we cannot just repeat what we did before the crisis and assume that business will be back to normal modus operandi. We believe that it will be completely different. There's a number of items that we have highlighted here. There will be government restrictions, and they will be different from route to route. So we need to be much more agile in our operation way when it comes to such a crisis than we used to. There will be different demand patterns. There will be potentially a demand pattern for us providing a safe travel corridor and not necessarily the same products as we used to. So in short, we will make sure that there is a safe way of travel. We need to lower our costs. We need to make sure that we focus on transportation products and value selling. And at last but not least, agile is the top word for us preparing for the future, because we cannot predict where this will end, but we can adjust to whatever will come in front of us. So I think that was my 5 minutes. I'm looking forward to the questions later on the session.
Thank you very much, Kasper, for that interesting and focused presentation, focus on red. As been said before, this will be published also afterwards on our website and on YouTube. We continue to Matteo Della Valle in Genoa, GNV. Please, Matteo.
Hello, Bolernat. Hello, France, and thanks for the invitation. Let me just give you a very quick overview of what GNV did in the last year, because it is important to understand and to answer to the three factors that for GNV are important for the restart of the ferry industry. Well, GNV, when the pandemic started, was, as far as I know, the first company that converted a vessel into an hospital one, thanks to RINA as well. We worked with RINA and with the regional health system and the civil protection. And the hospital vessel lasted until June and gave us the expertise and the know-how to create the safety services charter for the passenger. That is a list drawn up on the basis of the unique experience I was talking about. And just after this safety services charter, we obtained the RINA Biosafety Trust certification that Pino was describing at the beginning. In fact, the first vessel that he showed was La Suprema, that is our flagship. And we obtained as well the upgraded one for other vessels of the fleet. Then later on, together with the Dfts, with Casper, as he was mentioning before, we created a protocol, a common protocol that has the aim to show everyone that traveling with the ferry is a safe corridor. It is much more safer than traveling with the other means of transportation. And it includes a series of rules, very strict, in order to avoid any kind of infection on board. So if you push the button, these are the three factors that for GMV are very important for the restart of the ferry industry. First of all, the safety. So for us, and the safety of the passengers is the top position. So that's why we continue pushing on the customer safety charter, on the rules we have on board. The passengers have to follow, and our crew has to follow. And together with, of course, every kind of certification that needs to show that that traveling with GMV is safe and traveling with the ferry industry is safe. Second point, we are keeping on investing. That is contrary on the pandemic period. I know it's not common for the world, for the ferry industry itself, but GMV in the last year kept on investing. We launched a new line, Civitavecchia Olbia 1. We are about to receive a new vessel from the Byzantine shipyards that will be GMV Bridge, a brand new one. We are going to use another Byzantine vessel, the former Scottish Viking, that will be called GMV Sealand. So we are keeping on investing because we think that even in this pandemic period, there could be opportunities all around. The third point, I think the most important one, that GMV, but the sector as a one, should show cohesion and demonstrate that, communicate that traveling with the ferry is very, very safe, much safer than other means of transportation. That is the aim of the protocol that we did with the FDS. Because on the contrary than other means of transportation, we have wide spaces on board and strict rules that avoid any kind of infection. This is the key point that I would like to underline. A safe corridor must be guaranteed by the ferry industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matteo. It was quite inspiring to hear the industry cooperation between you and the Dfts, and these kind of bilateral, trilateral cooperations could maybe develop more. Now, last but not least, we have Vasilis Katsaris, Attica. Can you also give your view on how to restart the passenger ferry traffic?
Thank you very much, Leonard. Good afternoon to everybody. I will start my presentation regarding the 5 given questions of the webinar. Our company, Attica Group, in order to make passengers comfortable with corona safety on board, implement an array of measures to protect health and prevent infection. The preventive measures include hand hygiene, social distancing, and wearing face masks, which are essential to maintain safe vessel operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Attica Group is certified and awarded by Bureau Veritas with the sticker Safeguard. Our company also follows the hygiene protocol accurately and strictly according to the rules and instructions. We say that knowledge is our shield, and we inform our passengers about COVID-19 prevention measures before and during the trip. Our team is in daily communication with the competent services of the National Public Health Organization for the correct implementation of the measures and the solution of various problems, and so far we have done quite well. Having in mind the last year's reactions of our customers concerning bookings cancellations after the announcements for COVID-19, we have changed our procedure concerning the commercial and cancellation policies, adopting flexibility with booking changes and special cancellation conditions in order to provide our passengers the opportunity to use their tickets in the future. Attica Group has also adopted new methods and procedures, standing procedures, adapting to the new economic, social, and especially to the legal environment. Behavioral changes of travelers are expected in destination preferences as well as in travel trends. We are facing a new reality, and it is necessary to understand and follow the new conditions that have been formed. 40% of our customers come from countries of the European Union, and the vaccination procedures are very important for their decision to travel to Greece. Interferry, the non-shipping association representing the ferry industry worldwide, set out guidelines for mitigation of COVID-19 during the first pandemic wave. These guidelines covered shoreside and seaboard measures to protect the passengers, the staff, and the crew, ranging from booking, check-in, and boarding procedures to onboard limitations in passengers' numbers and facilities. We suggest to companies operating in Europe to inform their customers with these guidelines. We also believe that car travel by ferry versus flying will be a corona advantage for ferries because travelers feel safer in the comfort and safety of their own car. Moreover, the social distancing is possible when traveling by ferry versus traveling by plane. The accommodation on board, for example, cabins and the big public spaces, ensure the social distancing. In addition, long-haul destinations might be avoided this year due to the existing uncertainty, thus creating an extra market for traveling by ferry. Tourist organizations and associations plan the next day preparing comprehensive tourism recovery actions for an effective restart. Let me give you some examples of fulfilled actions in the previous months. General Secretariat for Civil Protection on July 2020 launched an information campaign called Enjoy Your Stay, Stay Safe, urging tourists to be mindful of health rules during their holiday in the country, in cooperation with Fraport and Athens International Airport, Eleftherios Venizelos. The Greek Tourism Ministry and Greek National Tourism Organization launched the Visit Greece mobile app to provide travelers with useful information for their trip to Greece in the post-COVID-19. The application is multilingual and designed to offer all kinds of benefits to tourists. The Greek National Tourism Organization is planning and will put in place a new campaign for coming summer, providing information concerning the tourists visiting Greece. The internet project entitled #AgapiMou which means My Love Greece, continues throughout 2021, which aims to promote in Italy numerous Greek destinations and thematic forms of tourism offered by Greece. This action seems to be in line with the similar action of Superfast Ferries, one of our companies, that first launched culture and gastronomy issues in the Italian market. The Destination Greece Health First initiative campaign for the safe opening of Greek tourism is designed to meet two objectives. First, providing all the information that the foreign visitor needs about how safe it is to travel to Greece and how the protocols for protection against COVID-19 are applied. And second, the aim is to positively affect all those who wish to travel to Greece but are hesitant due to health concerns related to coronavirus. In the end, I have to say that ATCA Group fleet consists of 32 modern and technologically advanced commercial and high-speed vessels. You can see it on the slide. It serves 60 destinations and connects 71 ports in Greek domestic market and on the international routes between Greece, Italy, and Morocco, Spain, through the branch of Superfast Ferries, Blue Star Ferries, Hellenic Seaways, and Africa-Morocco Link. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vasilis. Well, now we have heard a very broad and varied aspects on how to restart passenger ferry traffic. Yeah, and I think it's been quite interesting, and we have a big number of aspects from various areas of the ferry world in Europe. After this, we will turn over to questions that we have got from our subscribers. We have 2 questions to each, one in the panel, and the questions we will start with Casper. We've heard some comments already about motorist holidays, if that can be have a competitive advantage over air travel. What is your feeling about that, and what's Dfts feeling about that? We heard Attica thinking.
Yeah, thank you so much, Polanat. And Vasilios, I guess you covered it pretty brilliantly in your presentation, because we are exactly on the same page here. We believe that if you come with your own car and you travel to the port and you do the check-in, you can contain a safe bubble. And going on board a ferry, you can, if you wish, be in your own bubble more or less for the entire journey. So in our offerings on board, we will make sure that you can either socialize, of course, with distance, or you can keep separate in your bubble, i.e. going straight to your cabin if that is if it's an overnight ferry, or there will be space enough on board where you can go to your own corner, you can go outside, staying with safe distance to others. That is an offering that is extremely difficult to compete against for other means of transportation. It's obvious those who are sitting in an airplane, they don't have the same luxury of distancing themselves to others, or train or other means of transportation. So yes, we see that we can have an advantage above air travel and others. And of course, we need to make sure that we get the most out of that once the travel restrictions starts to ease up, because that is the #1 issue for all of us right now. That is travel restrictions across borders.
Okay. And I assume that you will use that in your communication and marketing, because I think it's a strong competitive factor. The other question we have got for you is, can demand for night and day ferries possibly differ? Why and how? You have both day ferries, Dover-Cali, and you have long night ferries, Copenhagen-Oslo. So.
Yes, we do have both segments, and thank you so much, Pino, for your beautiful video. I saw that you need to do a little bit of photoshopping with the colors for the beautiful vessels down the port of Dover. They're not light blue, they're dark blue now, but leave that aside. The travel where you go for a day ferry, of course, there is a completely different demand there, because the majority going on board the day ferries, they have a destination in mind when they go on board. So usually we are the link between A and B. On our cruise ferries, the overnight ferries, from time to time, we are the sole reason for traveling, i.e. the experience on board the night cruise ferry, where you will have entertainment, dance, and socializing as we did in the good old days. There is a potential delay in that segment, so there will be a huge difference. But interesting enough to see the stats when we locked down first time or suspended all operation, starting up in July last year, for example, between Copenhagen and Oslo, we saw a huge demand for passengers who wanted to go on board just for a trip from Copenhagen to Oslo and back again. So it is so difficult to predict. We can assume people go on board for transportation, but there is also a possibility that people are desperate to go out for entertainment as well. And we need to be ready for that. Back to my last point, the agile approach, we simply do not know, but we assume that there will be a need for more transportation focus than the others.
Thank you very much, Casper. We'll move on to Matteo. There's one question from our subscribers. Can tickets with refund options be an alternative? How, why, and why or why not? We heard some thinking that also from Athens. What's your feeling about that, Matteo?
Well, let's say that they are not an alternative, but they are mandatory up to now, because people do not, me included, do not book their holidays or their trips if they don't have the feelings of the possibility of canceling for free. So what we did is exactly in this way. So we let the people cancel for free if they cancel 4 days before departure. And when we introduced this possibility, together with the news of the vaccine in November, we experienced good bookings in that period. Then they went down because of the restriction due to the new rules. Now it was a news of yesterday that the Italian government postponed the possibility of moving among regions until the end of Easter. So people is anxious. They do not feel safe in this moment. They do not feel to book if they do not have the possibility to change their mind later on. So this is mandatory, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Matteo. One thing about restrictions is there's a lot of focus on restaurants, and there are restaurants on board. And I wonder, how are you going to organize your food service on board? Will there be buffets or a la carte or
yes,
or how do you do it?
Yes, let's say that on the content that I saw in the northern lines, ferry traffic, we do not have buffet, so it is simpler for us. We have dedicated areas for self-service, and for restaurants we created spaces between seats. So we extended the timetables of self-service and restaurants in order not to have assemblements. And we prepared disposable plates in order to let the passenger to take away their food in the cabins. So this is much appreciated by the passenger. They do not want to be all together in a closed place. So we will repeat this experience. With wider spaces in the restaurant, the self-service, and the possibility to take away the food in the cabins.
Thank you very much, Matteo. We move on to Vasilis. You mentioned something about your procedures for check-in. We have a question from the subscribers. How are you doing that? Could you elaborate a little more about that? How to do that corona-safe, the check-in procedures?
Well, the imposition of regulations and precautionary control measures during embarkation have changed the check-in procedure for sure. Check-in process takes place at a slower pace, as passengers need to prove required documents such as pre-boarding health declaration questionnaire, PLF, PCR test, and coronavirus vaccination certificate, which might be needed in the future. In addition, social distances and controlled embarkation between passengers are imposed in order to protect, of course, public health from COVID-19 consequences. Attica Group recommends to passengers early arrival to the port in order to ensure sufficient time for all those necessary procedures. On the other hand, e-ticket and web check-in, an Attica Group service for the domestic lines, it is a hassle-free and easy process which minimizes the contact at the port. Passengers with an e-ticket avoid any unnecessary physical contact with other people and can maintain necessary social distances more easily. Additionally, passengers won't have to go to an office to print or pick up their tickets, and they won't have to exchange paperwork with anyone at the port or while boarding the ferry.
Thank you very much. It sounds like the digital development in Greece is also increasing, and that leads me to another question that's from our subscribers. Can digital marketing can become a possibility for your communication, and possibly if there's going to be a late booking trend that might be the case? So how do you look upon digital marketing?
Well, digital marketing, I could say, is a must. COVID-19 has altered consumers' expectations, habits, and purchasing behavior, and it is important for businesses to adapt their digital marketing strategy, as well as to understand customers' behavior changes in order to be in the best position to respond to this new reality. The pandemic has effectively cultivated a delayed booking culture where people, due to uncertainty and insecurity, finalize their travel plans far later than previous years. In fact, a significant number of consumers are booking tickets in the days or even hours leading up to the start of their vacation. These last-minute bookers expect to find a special offer. More and more people travel with mobiles, tablets, or laptops and use these to book on the go. A growing proportion of last-minute booking are made from mobile devices. Mobiles and tablets now plays a huge role in the travel process. Consumers can now look and book at the time and place that suits them. As a result, it is becoming increasingly important for brands to understand mobile user context, providing them with what they are looking for and how to target potential customers while they are on the move. Set last-minute offers, special last-minute deals can trigger more bookings, optimizing capacity rates. Promoting last-minute offers on social media channels is an easy way to communicate to an already engaged audience. Via these channels, there are paid adverts as well, which gives us the opportunity to reach more possible customers. Newsletters and email marketing are promoting last-minute offers to already existing and potential passengers. Push notifications are the new channel to communicate special offers, increasing last-minute booking. At this point, it is important to mention that ATCA Group is fully compliant with GDPR regulations concerning the protection of the customers and partners and suppliers' personal data. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vasilis. These kind of digital marketing we have over the years seen developed in let's say, northern parts of Europe. And now it's the situation with the corona is obviously driving and increasing the use of that also in, let's say, in Greece and maybe also in other Mediterranean countries. Okay, last but not least, we have Pino, and there are some difficult questions for you, of course, since you are representing the expert on PCR test and vaccination. Is it likely that there will be a demand for PCR test or vaccination passport on international ferry routes? How do you look upon that in RENA? Is that likely? You have to unmute.
Yes. Sorry for this. Thank you, Bolenard, for this question. I cannot predict if vaccination passport will be the solution to open finally all the traveling activities on international routes. What I can say is that, of course, all of us we are seeing that vaccination today is preferred applied to elder people and to key position workers. And with this pace, we are reaching just above 30 or 35, 36 millions of people around the world which have been vaccinated, which represent 0.56% of the world population. This helps us to say that vaccination is a long far to be a very to be the
so
solution.
It's not likely because it's moving too slow.
Too slow, yeah, exactly. And this is why we have to insist in the PCR test, at least by now. On top of this, don't forget that also the other industry, at least they are even airlines. They are not asking you to be vaccinated. They are asking you. Of course, is very tremendous. Personally, for instance, I I had to take a flight from Italy to Netherlands, where I'm living, and in less than 5 years, I had to take 3 COVID tests. So it's complicated. But Bo Leonard, allow me to tell a few words also about not passengers, but also about crew which are on board of our vessel. We know all how has been very difficult to do crew changes in the last months. People that they were requested to stay on board longer than the 11 months which are prescribed by the MLC convention. But we cannot forget that these people are the ones which are moving all the global trade, because the global trade is made by sea transport. We give them we give these things for granted, but it's not like this. So it is extremely important to also appreciate what at IMO level now they are trying to do. They are pushing to have seafarers and all the people which are working in the maritime industry to be considered like also a key position workers. So they will have a priority in vaccination, because of course vaccination cannot be the passport, but of course can facilitate some process.
Okay, so it's a difficult thing to have these kind of rules with vaccine passport. I know that the Greek tourist organization, they've been pushing very hard for that, but it's probably not so likely, because the number of people who have been vaccinated is still very slow, and it's going to take a while. That's my understanding for what you're saying. And PCR test, yeah, there might be demands from various countries, but maybe not for specific ferries. Let's move over to the final question to you. Is there a difference in corona measures between day and night ferries? Of course, there are cabins on board, and what are the main differences there?
I think they trade ships are a little bit is more complicated in day trade ships to prevent a pandemic, obviously, than night trades. On board of day trades, you have always open and public space, and of course there is a more possibility to have contagious, also because you have in some cases less time for sanitation, and you have much more people changes during the day. Not having on board a clinic cabin or isolation cabin, of course, this is not helping you to have the possibility to confine a COVID case on board. So this takes me to say that in this kind of ship, especially for this kind of vessel, an health management plan, guidelines, procedures are extremely important to be applied, because on a day trade ship you cannot change much when it comes to layout. Different is with the night trade ship, where you have cabins, so you have a possibility to eventually to isolate, to confine a COVID situation, and also there, of course, you have to apply health management procedures and measures on board. But on board of this kind of vessel, for sure, you can use modification on what we call hardware for a ship. You can isolate main fire vertical zone. You can modify the route for the passengers, so for the crew. You can modify ventilation system, all the HVAC system on board. So there are even identification of what we call the limbo cabins, which can be considered a little bit a transition area, no, from and to a safe zone. So indeed, there is a different approach on the two type of traffics.
Okay, Pino. This is, of course, a very broad subject, but with your Corona certificate, I think you can learn much, much more, and then you need more time than the 5 minutes. Well, dear panelists, yeah, you know?
Yes, for sure. I would say that, I mean, our BioSafe certification could be a solution in both cases. That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, dear panelists, many thanks for your interesting views and presentations. And yeah, we are a little late, but I will now hand over the mic again to Mike, please.
Yes, hello. That was really amazing and very interesting. We have received a few questions, but I think there is no time for that. What do you think, Bolenert? Do we have time for a few questions, or at least one?
I would say yes, Mike.
Yeah.
If I look at my watch, yes, I would say 2.
Okay, I have a question for Dfts, for Casper, about the passenger capacity. How much, what is the percentage of the capacity of the ship that you will operate, both on the short sea route as on the cruise route?
That was an extremely specific question. I don't have a percentage figure on top of my mind. I can refer to, in the early days of the pandemic, we reduced in sequence and in stages. So there will be a significant reduction. But top of my mind, I don't have a specific figure there. It all depends on the restrictions and what we have done on the different routes. We have tried to mirror the local regulation. In Denmark, there is specific requirements for square meters, etc. There's others in other countries. So it's on a case-to-case basis where we need to look into what is the local requirements in the ports and in the countries we operate.
But could I ask something that, Casper? I know that you relatively fast can change the certificate, so you can, on a relatively short notice, give space for more or less.
Yes, of course. The manning model, and that is part of the. I think what we believe is fundamental for future success, that we have reduced our costs, we have reduced our manning, but we have a much more dynamic model now. So when it comes to the evacuation, the muster roles, etc., we have a number of different stages, and therefore we will start with the absolutely nose run. We will sell, and then of course we need to make sure we have staff enough for the passengers we take on board. But we have much more flexibility now than we used to have.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for that.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Casper, for this answer. And I think we will now go over to the results of the poll.
Mike, you still have time for one question, and then we go to the poll.
Okay. Then we have one more question, and I will ask that question to Matteo Della Valle. And the question is, when do you think that we are going to be back at least at 70% of the operation? Will that be this year or only next year?
Is soon acceptable as an answer? No. Well, let's say that for the Italian market, last year in summer, we, as Pino showed in his graph, we achieved for Sicily and Sardinia the 70% of traffic. At the end, it was a very last-minute demand compared to the previous years. But at the end, when there was the boom, it was very boom. So we are in my opinion, we can have something like this when the vaccine and people that did the COVID like me and the warm of summer will play together in order to let the infections decrease. So let's hope like this.
So
for the international, for the international ones, it's more difficult because there are also other rules. That
could be a very late booking market. You had that last summer.
Yes, very late.
Extremely late.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mark.
Okay, thank you very much. So now it's time to go to the results of the poll, and I thank you for your participation. I don't know, Franz, can you launch the... Yes, perfect. So should the ferry sector learn from the cruise industry? And I think that a majority says either yes or somehow, so that's very clear. Is a vaccination passport part of the solution? 69% says yes, surprising. Will people rather take the car on a ferry rather than fly? 72%, so that's good news for the ferry operators. In which year do you think that overseas passengers will return? We are especially thinking about the Chinese passengers. They will not return this year, but probably next year. And then will some changes be permanent, like for instance, the buffet food? And there it's a very mixed answer as one of the few. So the majority says yes, or it depends, or don't know. So that's the results of your answers. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the webinar. I would like to thank you in the name of Franz and Bo Lennart, and of course the participants, the panelists, and our sponsor. The good news is we are very motivated to do these webinars, and we have already planned a new one, number 6, on the 25th of March. Put it in your agenda. It's also Thursday, also at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's also related to Corona, not about the measures, but really about the financials, the results of the ferry operation, because they need to be improved once this crisis is over. And the question is how to improve these results. Strategy, capacity, tonnage, route strategy, all these things will be the subject, and we will announce very soon the people who will be in the panel. I remind you as well that this webinar, you will have a link to see it again, to consult the PowerPoint presentations. And I can only say thank you so much. Have a good afternoon and see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.